Good evening. Welcome to the Raymond Recycling Committee. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll get underway. And I think we just move right ahead to approval of the minutes from our last meeting of October 21st. There is a motion.
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions on the minutes? Everybody get them okay?
Mm-hmm. They look good.
All right, all in favor of adopting the minutes? We've adopted the minutes of October 21st. Thank you very much. On to some new business. We'll go in this order if that works for you. So Don Willard, the town manager's got some information about Maine waste to energy.
Right. Thank you, Grace. So John King is the executive director, general manager, chief engineer, all of the above. And so he took over for Joe Kazar, who's been there for a long, long time. And but John is a guy who has been, I guess, actually MWAC and now Maine Waste to Energy under John for a couple of years as understudy, getting ready for this role. But he has a long history. He worked for the Maine Energy Recovery Company in Biddeford, among others. So anyway, so I posed the questions that you all had to him, and so that was way back when we had that meeting. Might have been September or something, possibly. So I got an email back from him, and it said, Don, a few weeks ago we were talking on the phone. I had some ideas flowing in my head. Then I tried to put them in a paper computer, and I went blank. Anyhow, here's an attempt to give you something for your committee. If you would like something different or something more, please let me know, and I'll work on this some more. See what you think. And I think he actually covered your points, and so it's one page, probably the most efficient thing, so I don't leave anything out, might be to read it.
Please, thank you.
Okay. So anyway, this is addressed to me, and it says, from John King, to Maine Waste to Energy was built in 1992 as a quasi-municipal waste to energy facility to serve its 12 owner communities. The primary function being safe, environmentally friendly, reliable, cost-effective waste disposal. Over the course of the more than 30 years, the facility has processed and disposed of 946,000 tons of waste from the member towns. Maine Waste to Energy burns waste to create high pressure and high temperature steam, which is in turn used to power an electrical generator. The electricity generated is used in-house to run the facility, and the excess is sold to Maine's electric power grid. The member towns, which own the facility, paid for the facility some years ago and are now rewarded with lower disposal rates for their waste. As of today, the member rates are $41 a ton, or about 50% of the going market price. Most non-member towns are paying in the high 70s to low 80s per ton. The facility does recycle some material, but it is not a recycling facility. The facility does accept light iron, bulk cardboard, e-waste, batteries, Freon units, propane tanks, and tires. The facility does not accept and separate things like plastics 1 through 6, mixed paper, carpet, organics, and paint for recycling. The things that are accepted are separated by local residents. Do generate revenue, but it's provided more as a service to the local community than a revenue stream. The facility business model was set up to operate before recycling plants were mainstream and waste to energy plants were being built throughout the country. The question of whether to recycle or not is interesting and something that needs to be decided by each community. As the operator of a waste to energy power plant, I can say that it really does not matter to us. If member towns recycle some of their waste that would come here, the facility would just process and burn more waste from other non-member communities. The only benefit to this would be the facility would be burning waste with a higher tipping fee. The facility has plenty of waste. If you don't recycle your waste and decide to just send it to us, we will dispose of it and you'll pay less for overall waste disposal, assuming recycling tipping fees remain high. If a member town does decide to send us all its waste and recycling to us, we would ask that you not separate it at all. The facility does have trouble with large loads of the same item, such as a whole compactor full of milk containers. The facility would benefit from just throwing everything you want to dispose of in the same container. Those are my thoughts as they pertain to the operation of the power plant. There are many things to consider when trying to decide what to do with the waste and the recycling. Where does everything end up if I don't recycle? Question mark. What is the impact on the environment? Question mark. What type of facility will be handling my waste and recycling? Question mark. What is really happening to the materials that I am separating for recycling? And what are the financial consequences? Also question marked. All of these things matter and need to be taken into consideration. So that's what he had to say. Pretty much what I said when I gave a very Reader's Digest version of it. He doesn't, from a plant standpoint, it doesn't matter to them now with the advanced scrubbing and environmental protection measures in place. So they can handle anything we send them.
Questions?
As long as it's mixed.
I got a question. So we're paying them $41 a ton, looking at me. What are we paying to the recycling place?
Last month it was $63 a ton.
And of course the question becomes, one question that people have asked, and I don't know the answer, maybe Nate does, if they fail, if they take that at $63 a ton and fail it, do we pay the tip fee at MWAC on it? What happens to it?
I don't believe so. I
Okay.
wouldn't dare say one way or the other without asking the question. I don't think we do recharge. I think that's part of the recycling. That's part of the tipping fee with the recycling program. Once we pay for the recycling, it goes to the recycle center. And the way I understood it, if there's product that doesn't get recycled, they take care of it. Of course, it's Pine Tree Waste, so or Casella, so
They take a bit, so.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So, I'm not sure if I'm getting this.
Huh?
If we didn't recycle anything and it all went to Maine Waste to Energy, we would be paying the $63 for the recycling.
Right.
And it wouldn't cost more
Cost
to
less.
move it to, somebody's got to still move it.
Would you ask the question again? I
So-
try to understand what you're asking.
So somebody still has to, we'd have more waste. So doesn't that increase the cost of
Well,
what we're sending
you got
to?
$41 a ton to send it to the incinerator versus 60,
I think last month was 63. I don't know.
63. So you pay more to recycle it than you do to send it to the incinerator.
But
So
I think to answer where you're going, Grace, is it's the same, we have the same amount of
Of
tonnage.
tonnage, yeah.
And what we're doing now is we're sending some of it to a $40 place and some of it to a $70 place. If it went all to the $40 place, we still have the same amount. So our pickup fee wouldn't change per se because we're still picking up the same tonnage.
If you did away with recycling completely, you would still have, you would have a decrease in your curbside pickup. It would change that a little bit, not much, because they're still going to need, you still have the same amount of tonnage out there, and it's going to take close to the same amount of workforce to do it. They would separate the routes up. We did an exercise on that. It wasn't a huge savings on that. Where you'd see your savings is on the tipping fee. It would be 40, whatever the tipping fee is MWAC is right now. The recycling tipping fee is a moving target. That follows the market up and down. We could see a savings, we could see up to $150.
Right.
But normally it stays close to the
This is
40,
This is
41?
our first year doing it. I couldn't tell you. MWAC's, that's been pretty stable for quite some time now.
But our $63 a ton is a contracted,
No.
that
No,
moves
that's our
also?
contract is based on $150 a ton. And they've got the, it's a market, it's affected by the market. It's what they're getting for their average return on the product.
That's the recycling. But
Recycling.
for our going to MWAC,
40, whatever the contract was, 40.
41, then that's a
That's
contracted
a
price.
contract. We own part of MWAC. Mid-Maine Waste.
We're one of the 12
We're-
communities.
Correct.
So if our recycling tipping fees go up to 150, we could spend a lot more just to recycle.
Yeah.
Right.
My budget was set on 150 and change a ton.
I'm not sure because of the low cost of MWAC or Maine Waste to Energy. I mean, 41's actually a significant increase from where they had been historically for a long, long time. They resisted, an increase, but they finally had to. And I don't know all the nuances and details because I've served as the alternate. Mark Gendron was our rep and attended a lot more meetings. But But basically, the group agreed unanimously this past annual business meeting to allow the increase after many years of, I want to say like $29 a ton or some such thing. So I don't think recycling has ever been cost competitive.
Yeah, go ahead.
So he said we pay $41 a ton, which is 50% off the market rate, and that's only because we're one of the 12 owners that invested in the beginning.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
So the tipping fee for the recycling, however, does that change with whether it's contaminated or not?
It
I mean,
changes monthly by the market.
by the market, but
Right.
isn't, I thought the original issue, or at least one of the original issues that kind of brought this up was also that they're not able to recycle what we're putting in the
A
recycle
lot of it
bins.
can't be recycled because there's no market for it, and and there is a contamination factor to that. Dirty products, wet
Right.
cardboard, and all that adds into it. I was hoping to have her here today to explain it, and with the holidays and the uproar they're having, upheaval they're having in their corporate office, couldn't pull it off today.
They've changed,
Oh.
they had, the general manager I worked with for years retired. They had a new general manager, a younger guy, and he's no longer with them. They're in transition somehow, and so there's a lot of changes at Casella, I guess.
Okay, but again, I thought that part of the issue was recycling was costing us more than it should because we weren't recycling properly. And I think we
I
did
think some of
hear,
that is true.
I think we
yes.
did hear at the last meeting that there actually is a better market for it. And actually, we've got a couple more articles as well that, I mean, yes, it fluctuates, but right now, it's actually some of the information that's been out there about, well, you're just gonna end up burning it anyway is not really accurate if we're doing it properly, if people are educated as to how to recycle. That's been my understanding so far from what I've been reading and what we heard at the last meeting.
So we,
Ralph and then Sue?
I think, what, you know, the cost issue comes in because if we're sending it to recycling and it's a contaminated lot, they can't recycle it, so then they shift it off and they're taking what we then paid 70 for, sending it to the incinerator, which we could have done for 40.
so we're paying that
So-
anyway, even though.
So we're paying the
okay.
70, but it really could have been done for 40
Yeah.
because it's a contaminated lot.
So, yeah,
And so that's where that issue is. If it was a clean lot, then the 70 is, you know, has value to it. But if it's going there and it can't be recycled, then essentially all we've done is throw money away.
Okay, and so we certainly don't want to be doing that. Sue?
no, that's what I was gonna ask, exactly that, thanks, Ralph, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, go ahead.
I know with Echo Maine, the Zoom meeting that we watched, they said that if it is contaminated, they do charge extra back to the communities. But he also said he wasn't sure what Casella did. So some of them do have a charge back if we're contaminated. They're
We
gonna
don't.
charge
We
you
don't.
extra.
We don't.
We don't at all.
No, I get billed on the actual cash value of the product for that month. So I get a bill for the tipping fee for the curbside for MSW, and then I get a bill for the recycling. That's that moving number from 0 to 150, $2 or $3 a ton on the top. We could at some point see a revenue from it. That's part of that contract. If it goes to a revenue, we will see the revenue. But it can't, I had to put a cap on it because I just couldn't give an open,
Yeah.
you know, because they have seen into the $200 a ton to get rid of recycling. To process it, that's what your expense is, processing it.
Okay, and did you, well, let's see. So we don't know yet, since this is a new contract, what the variation has
No.
been. It's 63 right now,
Yeah,
and that's where it's been so far?
right, pretty close to that. All I've got is July, August, September, and October. I've only got 4 months worth of a sample.
Okay,
And that'll change coming into winter, because a lot of your products are gonna change in the winter. Their market changes in the winter. So we don't know.
right, okay. Because they did, I mean, just on the website, there's a lot of information about proper recycling, for one thing. So I was sort of aiming the direction of, I think the biggest need we have is to be educating people about how to recycle well and compost and all the other other things. I know that, Sue, you listened to, I didn't get a chance to listen to it. I caught some of it. I'm driving home. Maine Public Radio had
Oh, yeah, they
a
did,
session on it.
yeah, that, but I watched the adult ed program on just composting, and that was very informative. And the thing with kitchen waste and food waste is that it is so heavy.
Right. That's
Really, 40% of the tonnage is like from, and it's wet.
right.
Say, you know, and they did say, you know, we can manage the incinerator with, when you're dumping a wet, you know, a damp cloth into, it's like pouring water into the incinerator, but we manage it, you know, she didn't, but it's really, it just opened my eyes about what a difference it would make if, you know, people weren't throwing their garbage in the, you know, the food waste. It's just
a very large problem.
it's, yeah, it really is. It was, and just the anaerobic process that they use, and then they have the open process in Auburn where they just have the piles and they just move the piles, and how they work with restaurants and different events to take the food waste and move it, and the supermarkets also are involved in that. It's, yeah, there's quite a procedure and organization around this composting thing. I was really impressed with that, very surprised. And the thing that was really interesting is that, you know, they have these compostable cups now, plastic cups, which are made by fossil fuel companies, of course, but they can't recycle them because they're starch. They got 30% starch in them, and they can't use that. But they're marketed as being recyclable. So it's that I thought was kind of interesting in terms of where the fossil fuel companies are going in terms of making plastics. They're making what we think is what they're selling as compostable, and it's not.
Right.
It's just.
It is or isn't compostable? I thought you said it was compostable.
They sell it as
not recyclable.
No, it's not recyclable. I'm sorry, compostable.
You can compost it. Yes.
Yeah, they sell it as a compostable.
But you really can't.
No, yeah, you can't because of the starch and stuff. So those big places don't take it. They won't even take it.
Okay.
And I don't think you want to. And it's crazy to throw it into your backyard hole in the ground. So.
Okay.
So that I thought was kind of, and so we'll probably be seeing more of that kind of stuff coming out, especially with the repackaging and all this is compostable packaging and all that. And really, it's not. If they have up to 30% starch in it, it's not. Okay. So that was kind of interesting. It was good. I'm not doing a good job at my compost pile. Not adding enough brown stuff and all that. So
we actually did get the link. I meant to be on that, and she was good enough to send the link. I just haven't watched it.
Yeah, I sent it all out to everybody.
You did already share that. Okay.
Yes, to watch it. That was nice that she did that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to catch the last one too.
Yeah.
Very informative. A lot of energy. A lot of people that are just into it. Really into it. It's just a passion, and it's nice. It's nice to see, really.
So, I mean, without someone here to do a presentation, do we want to just send some questions to them or ask if they can come to the next meeting?
I would really like her to do a presentation because I need to get the information too. We came into this pretty blind.
Okay.
And she's willing to come out. It's just scheduling just didn't work.
So probably, I mean, one of the things we certainly need to do before the end of the meeting tonight is decide what we're doing next. And one of those things being setting a date.
Well, I think that Casella and or Pine Tree Waste, same thing, but they're much more integral to what we're doing than the waste energy plan. I mean, I think we have to concentrate on what our program is, and they're a part of that. I mean, the plan is the plan. They'll do whatever we want, it seems. But if we want to make forward progress on improving our processes, it's a town-Casella partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So how best to try to find dates that work for us as well as for Casella?
I think we get a little bit away from the holidays. I think it'll be better. I did not hear back from her before the meeting tonight.
Yeah.
But I can definitely get that and email it out.
Okay.
We can go from there.
Well, since we're talking about a next meeting date? Do we want to kind of figure that out now rather than wait till the end of the meeting? And I know Karen had said, reminded me that we had said initially, could we try the third Thursday of every month? I have a meeting every other Thursday that would not necessarily coincide with avoiding the third Thursday of the month. So I know it's nice to just have a regular routine like that, but you know, not that I necessarily need to be here. The vice chair can take over, but I certainly would like to be here.
And
Yeah.
I'm open for any night. It's not, you know, my schedule is a lot looser, so it doesn't matter to me.
So December 16th would be the third Thursday.
But you think it's better to hold off
I
after
would
the holidays?
think if Thanksgiving was a problem, I'm
Yeah.
thinking Christmas is gonna be a bigger problem.
Do we go to January 20th? And skip December?
Is that,
That's the third Thursday.
okay? Martin Luther
That gets
King Day,
away from Christmas and New Year's.
Right, yeah, Martin Luther King is the 17th.
17th, okay.
Well, they didn't tell us when our every other meetings are, and the holidays are interrupting those.
Because we're gonna also have to, I don't think we meet on Thursdays, but we're gonna be in budget time too,
Yeah,
so.
and as well, my other question was, when do we need to come to some sort of a recommendation to make? Does that impact this year's budget process, or
Doesn't,
not necessarily?
Unless you're gonna do,
I don't think so, because
I don't think so.
you have a 3-year contract.
Right.
so-
3-year contract,
We signed
so
a
this
3-year
is not
contract,
that.
the only way it would be if you were doing something different and you entered into a, you know, renegotiation or opened the contract, which I would not recommend.
But
No,
if you look at from a practical standpoint, if you're going to do something different, you've got that whole education piece that's at the front end of it. And by the time you actually got to the brass nails and tacks of changing anything, you're 6-8 months down the road anyway. So. Because it's gonna take a while to get things in there, get people to actually understand if there's any changes and things like that. So.
well, should we try for the 20th, and I'll just hope that that isn't one of my every other Thursdays. They're not very good about getting them past the date set out very far out, but, all right. Well, let's try for that, and
Okay. Yep.
can you reach out and, please, and check, and if that doesn't work though, do we want to back up? Do we want to offer a
Well,
couple
that
of
gives
days?
us enough, that gives me enough time to find out if there's gonna be a
January
problem,
28th.
and I can
The next meeting.
coordinate with you
Let
guys.
us know,
through
and then we could just kind of reset. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you for doing that, I
Let's get
appreciate
December.
that.
Okay,
Okay.
Well, along those lines, I reached out to the garbage to garden folks today to inquire about them coming to Raymond. I sent the link to
Yes.
to everybody. And the way they're set up is to collect residentially. So, the operations manager is gonna call me back on Monday, and I asked if the person I spoke to was not the operations manager. I asked about the potential of the operations manager coming to give us a presentation so that we could understand what they do and how we could potentially make that work.
Great, okay. So-
I thought they were very expensive. Just, isn't it?
I
like-
know, but they do, the individual household pays for the garbage to garden, for the service of it. That's the way it's set up. But they have a volunteer program where you can go and volunteer to work off what the fee would be. And so that's part of the website. They have 4 different areas if you're willing and want to volunteer.
Yeah, it's, from what I'm looking at, the link you sent, it's $15 a month or $165 a year per household to pay for that. I know from the Echo Maine Zoom link that we just did, the garden, it's coming to Wyndham. They're setting it up in Wyndham right now, so it might be interesting to see how that's working.
What was that company?
The same one,
Oh, it's-
garden to,
Garbage to
garbage to
garden?
garden.
And
yeah.
they're the one over in Auburn?
I would imagine it's the same one, but she just said they're trying to set it up in Wyndham right now.
Okay. I'll be interested to hear back from the ops manager because the person I talked to wasn't as knowledgeable, I think. so.
Would be good to hear
Right.
about it. Yeah, if so.
I asked this person about the possibility of Raymond and Wyndham partnering to do this.
Would you bring your composting materials to a central location?
That's what he suggested,
Yeah, I would think so,
So-
yeah. Huh.
but I'll get clarification from the ops manager on
Okay.
Monday.
Good. Okay, so as far as area towns, well, certainly I checked the website, and, you know, everybody's doing recycling in one way, shape, or form. And where it said it's mandatory, that kind of caught my eye. So, let me see if I've got my notes. Because Poland and Gray say that it's mandatory, but you do have to bring it to the transfer station. Although you can hire somebody that hauls it for you and whatnot. And it sounded, when I did speak to the person in Gray, actually I didn't speak to anyone in Poland. The person at the town office said that they're in like every other day, and I didn't catch them on the right day. In Gray, the person said people could do a better job of actually doing the recycling. So it's mandatory, but questionable that there's really no enforcement of it. So if they do bring it, it's single sort, but sometimes it's all just in their trash that they're also bringing to the transfer station. Wyndham was very, certainly they are doing all sorts of you know, recycling, picking, curbside pickup bins, and going well. And I talked to a couple of people in the town that are actually doing it and said, oh yeah, we've been doing this for quite a while. So I kind of wonder though why the Wyndham Raymond Adult Ed had those sessions on it, if maybe they're also trying to be sure people are not, you know, putting things in the bin that shouldn't go in. So I don't know if that's a concern there too. It probably always is.
Do they have multiple companies? The people, is the town paying for that in Wyndham, or do they have private companies that people?
Oh, I didn't ask. It's Echo Maine. It's all over the
They have a
website on
contract with
Wyndham.
Echo
It
Maine.
is,
Yeah.
okay. And you know, they actually started after we did. We were one of the first communities in this area to start the
Recycling.
and pick up the you know,
Curbside pickup.
yeah,
Yeah,
roadside,
yeah,
yeah, and I used to wonder, God, why isn't Wyndham doing this? And then it took them a while to
Yeah.
get there though,
Yeah.
but they did, yeah. So
Yeah.
they're with Eco Maine,
Eco
Yes.
Maine. Is it
Yeah.
Eco Maine or Echo
Echo
Maine?
Maine, Eco
Yeah, the
Maine.
curbside pickup programs with Casella though.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is Casella contract.
Okay.
You know, there's another factor that we have to bring into things. Is, you know, when we're comparing to Grays and people like that, or towns like that, excuse me, where we have a very high summer population.
Good point.
They don't. So we're gonna, when we think about the education piece, we've got to actually think of it in two, in a couple of phases, because
Sure.
it's one thing to, to take care of the, to train the 4,000 people, but when all of a sudden you got to do the other 8 or 10,000, that's where the issue is going to be, and that's where your bigger bump is in material, is during that summertime.
That's a really good point. And as a teacher, I know you have to say things at least 7 times before they hear it anyway. So it's, but that is a good point. That it needs to really be ongoing, not to mention things do change bit by bit. So there was something, one of the towns, I think it was the Poland site, saying we won't take plastic bags anymore. That sort of a notice on there. So I guess at one point they were. But they do still take the plastic bags at the supermarkets. At least that's what I've been bringing mine. Not that people have a lot of plastic bags anymore, but you still get them in
Has a
packaging.
kind of a paper bag kind of thing. They require you to purchase a certain type of bag. It's clear. I think Casco's the same way. I don't know about Wyndham, just curbside, so it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
the transfer stations seem to do it with a special plastic bag, and there's a couple times ago paper bag. Wyndham's paper bag
Paper bag,
Yeah.
okay. For the trash.
for the trash.
yeah.
That
They have
forces
to buy
recycling.
that green bag.
They have to buy bags from Hannaford's or the town office.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we don't do that, we just, yeah.
Okay, well, that's really what I found. I didn't mention Casco. That's another one that also does single sort right at the transfer
Do
station.
they do pickup
so-
in Cass? They don't do pickup, they have to go to the dump, right?
Yeah.
Or wherever it
Yeah.
is.
Transfers.
The
Transfer station down where like we go in off
Beach Hill
of,
Road.
yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if there was other questions to ask of other towns, anything. I mean, it all seemed to be pretty much, you know, what we've already kind of thought.
I've been to the Yarmouth recycling, their dump a couple of times because of, they got the burn facility right there. And they do a remarkable job. You know, you go in and there's a place for your light bulbs, there's a place for your batteries, there's a place for all your plastic. And the people, there'll be a line there on Saturdays with vehicles. And they all come in and they sort their stuff out and they leave, and there's an employee there who watches over it.
That's key.
But I was really kind of impressed at how much they were recycling and how many cars, you know, the few Saturdays that I were there that were in line waiting to recycle.
When you go to a transfer facility type of plan, that gives you almost 100% control of what's coming in and what you're doing, how you're sorting it. Curbside, you don't have that luxury.
Yeah, he's
So-
right. I mean, I used to manage a 5-town facility. It's just like what you're talking about. And I think it does actually promote, you know, better practices because there is a monitored system and, you know, you can tell what people are doing, and I think people also appreciate the notion of, you know, how well laid out these places are and how simple it is. But there sometimes are wait times, but oftentimes there aren't. You can zip right through, do your thing, put in the bins. So I think it is, but that's not the system we have.
No, and I agree. And I'll admit, as much as I want to recycle, single sort, put my stuff out at the end of the road is very easy.
Yeah, and then because you have the other issue too, and that is, I mean, think about if you're thinking about environmental impact, hundreds of cars
I was going to
every
say.
week driving to
That's a good
Casco
point.
versus one truck or 2 trucks coming through the town. I mean, there's an
adds up.
environmental trade-off there too.
Yeah, and then people's time, and then you also have to have somebody that's there monitoring it. That's the key, is having it,
Is that
some
too,
way
yeah.
of enforcing it too. So.
But on average, it would be a cheaper service, but it's a lesser service. And we've talked about, or I've talked to the selectmen over the last, you know, number of years about different, you know, things, paper bag, the transfer station thing way back. But there has been a, you know, strong interest in keeping what is seen as a premium service in the curbside. They think that, you know, it's something that our residents appreciate, and I think they do too. I mean, we don't get very many complaints, although today was a day for complaints, wasn't it, Nate? We had one. But normally we don't get complaints. We've got a good provider. People like the service, but it does put it on them.
Can I ask what sort of complaints there are about it? That,
Our biggest problem right now is stuff put up curbside that we don't pick up. And
okay.
we've been pretty lax on it over the years, and
So people are
Casella has-
calling because you didn't pick something up to
Right.
pick it up.
Yeah,
Okay.
so today's issue was someone leaves a pile of, puts steel shelving in plastic bags and, you know, sheetrock, cured sheetrock mud and plastic pails in plastic bags. That's not household MSW. So try to explain that, and then some people accept it better than others.
Okay.
we typically try to, I try to use that as an educational point. 90% of the people, when you explain to them, we don't normally pick that up, but I'll come out and pick that up today for you, but please don't do it again. They're very grateful for that, and we don't normally see a repeat problem.
Okay.
This individual today wasn't hearing anything of it.
Okay. Please tell me it wasn't somebody I know. Oh dear. Okay.
Well, it was nobody we knew,
Yeah, yeah.
but I mean, sometimes you get that, and I
Yeah,
think,
I understand.
and I think if you camouflage your stuff carefully enough, there probably is a better than average chance that the guys can't deduce what's in the bag, and so then they put it in the, so the argument was, well, I always pick up everything I put out there before. And I said, well, we didn't today. I mean, tell me what you had out there, and then they weren't, anyway, it was not a good day for that.
So really, even just education about what can go in the trash
Yeah.
is needed as well.
Yeah, I
To be
think
sure
this
we-
individual knew what he was doing wasn't right.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
people
I
are
mean,
gonna do it anyway. I mean, you could
we-
educate, but they're
Well, at
gonna
the end of the
do.
day, if if it was metal, and if you took it to the transfer station, it goes there for free anyway.
Right, but you have to, that's the inconvenience of having to take it, but you're absolutely right, it has monetary value.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it was small enough metal and were mixed in with the MSW, I mean, the plant doesn't care because they get it on the back end and sell it. But if it's,
Yeah.
they don't want that.
Right.
And we've got to get a little bit better control on the 2-bag limit. If you want to push the recycling, you need to limit the amount of trash to pick up. And way 100 years ago,
We tried.
We tried. And we're slowly trying to do that again, because everything's getting more expensive, so we're trying to reduce the tonnage that we're picking up.
So it's two barrels still?
It's two 32-gallon barrels,
Right.
unlimited recycling. Trash has to be in a receptacle with your address on it, in bags. And we get probably, I don't know if I dare say 70% compliant on that, maybe.
And some of that you get into some nuancing there that someone says, okay, well, I'm allowed two containers. I didn't put anything up there for 2 weeks, so do I get 6 another week?
And the guys on the truck, we're very fortunate. We've had the same contractor for a very long time. And the drivers on the truck have been with the company for a very long time. So they recognize that, believe it or not.
Yeah.
They'll go down through, hey, that guy didn't have anything out for 2 weeks and he's got 6 bags, we're gonna grab it all. On an average, it works.
Yeah.
But when you go by and he's got 6 bags every week,
Yeah.
they'll call me, I'll go down and see him. Usually it's a,
But on average, we don't get, I mean, if you look at the hundreds of thousands of pickups we make, we don't get a lot of complaints.
I mean, the other side is that Nate isn't going around picking up a lot of trash that people are just trucking off there because they've gone over their limit,
Correct.
which is the other side of it when you start to look at that and say, okay, some people are going to get rid of it one way or the other. They're going to put it at the end of the road, or if they can't do that, it's going in the woods, and then he's got to go pick it up.
we've had a, that's an up and down swing. One year we'll do a ton of that stuff and we, for whatever reason during the pandemic, we did very little of it. But the problem we had in the last year has been people not putting the trash out on time. Because they're home and you're not leaving for work at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I always tell people my rules for the trash is, if you want to be assured of pickup, don't try to time the trucks, because there are changes, there are anomalies that can change the schedule, different drivers, they may go at it in a different order. So put it out the night before, invest in a good container, a toter if you can with a top, put it in bags, you'll always have trash joy. Follow those simple rules, you'll always have joy. Deviate, you may not have joy.
But remember the top, because
That's
there
what I tell
are
people.
animals.
Don't count on the schedule being the same.
Yeah.
Secure your trash,
Yeah.
put it in bags,
Yeah.
happiness.
I'd like to add to that, and I'd like to see out of this committee is some teeth in it, or at least some guidance where we can send out to the people that in writing with a policy from the selectmen that says this is what we want. And I think a lot of that'll help. A lot of people don't know it. We've had a lot of people move into town that in the last couple of years.
Right.
Yeah, and you forget, and if you, I mean, I don't know that I think the address is still on our trash barrels, but I'll have to go look. It might have worn off by now. That's
Yeah.
the thing, it's the same trash
Oh,
barrel.
we can help.
So-
I mean, we tried doing stickers, we tried doing different things. So I think
Yeah.
insofar as we can do education and try to get people to comply with what it is we want by education, then that's a good thing. And Nate's right, I mean, the town has changed a lot since we did that last.
So we do have another item here from Kathy to report on Recycling 101. I just want to say what I'm thinking in my head right now is to really be thinking about what are the criteria for what we want for a recommendation going forward from the committee at some point. And certainly, you know, are the environmental issues, I think, are very important. Certainly cost is very important. Convenience for people so they'll do it. I mean, that's the sort of thing. So I just would ask people to be thinking of that, and at some point maybe have a discussion on that. What parameters would we want?
Yeah, I
for
think the
any
whole
kind of
thing is going to be when we get Casella in here and get their educator in here, it's a she now, right?
Yeah.
She's going to have some really good ideas.
Okay, great. Okay.
Nate, can I ask you, do you see huge issues in the summer with all the summer residents?
Yes.
And all the rentals and stuff?
Yes.
Summer people are, I can't even come up with a,
Okay, polite thing to say?
that is our biggest problem. It's when our dumpsters get contaminated. People are renting for a week and they don't care about anything except for trash at the end of the driveway. And that's where we're coming into, that sparked the trash can issue. I've got one down on Deep Cove. The guy wants to help us out, but I don't have a policy for him to fall back on.
Okay.
And he's asked for the policy, and I don't disagree with him. We should have a policy. And we've noticed too with the Airbnb stuff, that's been a bigger problem than I thought thought for.
Oh.
And that's everywhere in town. That's not just on the Raymond Cape end of town. That's even up on,
And that could come back once again to education too, though, to make sure that the individual renting, owners, or the entities like Crane and others who are agents for renters, we haven't done anything to educate any of those people.
Right.
So therefore, how can you expect the people they rent to know?
Right, and the rental properties could just have that information.
Right, we can produce something to post in the
Yeah.
rental house,
Right.
so they know. I mean, it's a wonder they do as well as they do in many instances. I don't think anybody, generally, they don't do things deliberately.
I don't think so. I think
Generally.
generally people are, they get it and they want to do the right thing, but they don't know what the right thing is, and they're on a time crunch, and to the end of the driveway goes.
High Island, actually, they have a lot of rentals, and their town hall did a nice flyer, and it's a one-page, but then they laminated it, and they gave it out to everybody to put on their fridge, and it had everything
Yeah,
from,
that's what I'm saying.
from public safety to tips in town to where to go for things, but their trash. And I know the folks that rent their places really appreciated it.
Yeah.
Now, they still run their own truck out there, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So they got their own staff picking up recycling.
So they don't pick it up, you take it to the dump, but then they haul it all off.
I think if we
Their
developed
trucks.
a flyer or had a magnet for a refrigerator magnet, which I think I've seen other towns, I think we might have had one once even.
Yeah, we've done.
Long time ago.
Yeah, we've done 250,000 different ways and policies.
When I first came, they had those kind of things 20 years ago.
But he's
Yeah.
not
I still get
exaggerating.
calls for the coupons to go to the dump.
I'm
so,
sure.
We've been
Yeah, that was,
down for 10 or 15.
Yeah, that was a better idea, huh?
Yeah.
They're still doing it though. That was our idea to try to limit what was happening when people were abusing our bulky waste site. So we came up with a coupon system to equalize the use. And the other towns who continued on with bulky waste still use that system.
Yeah. Well, I did see Casella does have a lot of some of these types of materials that we could just use from them. So at least that's, again, I read about that. So.
You know, I think having her come out is going to be really crucial to what
Okay.
the goal is
Yeah.
here, and really would. That's kind of what you're going to be here now.
I suppose the other thing you could do, but I don't know who you would contact, would be to find somebody who you think is doing this, has curbside and is doing this really well, and have their recycling coordinator, public works person, whatever it is. It's probably going to be a bigger entity than us. But have somebody who you think is, and I don't know who that is. I mean, maybe Casella could tell us who does it well.
I think you could. Most of the towns that I deal with are all contracted, and the large majority of them with Casella.
So when she's here, you could ask that question.
Yep.
Who's doing better than us and why? And then maybe have that person come talk to us.
And curbside pickup in itself has got a lot of hurdles and especially out here with the camp roads and the.
Right.
We redid the trash route I think 10 years ago now, and Casella had goals that they needed to meet for safety and where the truck was going. Trying to get in and out of these camp roads, and that's going to be another problem coming up.
Yeah, that does make us unique. Was it 250 miles?
Yeah, it's almost 250 miles camp roads.
Camp roads. Yeah, so that's a big difference in most towns. Something like that.
All worth it. It's a beautiful town.
Yes, it is.
All right, Kathy, anything, what do you want to tell us about Recycling 101? Is that what I was on as well, or was this something
Yes.
else? Yes, we
You
were
were on
both
it.
on it. Okay. But,
The RSU 14 Adult Ed did this class with Echo Maine. I guess it's Echo. One of the things I found very interesting is they're a nonprofit, where Casella is a for-profit. But interesting, very informative. They took us through a lot like they did here, what goes in the waste, what doesn't go in the waste, all the food waste and that. But they had a tour through the facility. So you saw everything from when it gets here, what do they do, how it goes on the conveyor belts, how it gets packaged and then gets sorted. One of their big points was to check with your own vendor, because they said every vendor does it a little different in terms of what they accept and what they don't accept. But she did a great job at reviewing what is recyclable, what's not recyclable. She talked about, does it have to be clean? And she said, yes, things have to be rinsed out. They don't have to go through the dishwasher, emptied and clean. Some of the things surprised me. Like she said, we don't want any you know, ribbon or cloth or things like that because it gets tangled up and they spend so much time trying to detangle it. We don't want the little covers, the plastic covers, because they just fall through. And so it was really interesting. They did a great job there. They did say that Wyndham would be looking at the garbage to garden program. Another thing that I found interesting is one of the ladies that was in the thing from Wyndham said they have a Buy Nothing group on Facebook. And I don't do Facebook, so I'll have my husband look at it. But she said it's this group of people in Wyndham that they put up stuff and say, anybody want this? And they don't want to buy things, and they do it back and forth that way. And I thought that was really interesting, but I thought it was very informative. So I'm interested to see from Casella what exactly they want us to do. You know, like she said, no broken glass. And I'm thinking, well, with all these glass jars you put in the dumpster, because they're going to get broken. But it was a very good class. They are doing their next class on composting on 1214, RSU 14 Adult Ed. And that was, it's on basically composting, but it's basically how to save our earth by composting. So I hope to do that one. And
What date is that one, 12/14?
12/14 in the evening. RSU 14 Adult Ed has it.
Yeah.
And they're free. And it's
No
all
charge,
these
right?
all these classes have been free.
Yeah.
And the folks have been great doing it.
Yes, they really
So
have been.
it was
yeah.
good to do. Kind of got you excited about recycling again, you know, this, I can do this and I can do this, but oh, I can't do that. I didn't know bubble wrap. I thought bubble wrap was recyclable. No.
That you can bring back to the UPS store, though. I always bring that back to the UPS
But you know,
store, and they
and I
take
was
it right
like,
up
you know,
and
any of
use
those
it.
mailers with bubble, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, shoot, I've been putting those in. So it was good.
Yeah, well, bring them to UPS, because they will be very happy with you.
I bet they will.
Yeah, the next one's called waste. So I don't know if it's just on composting or what it exactly
No, well, the one I
The
saw was on composting.
last
That was
week,
this
yeah.
past week.
Yeah, this one is on whatever it is. It's
Yeah,
what
I know.
It's a series, though.
Save
Yeah.
the earth type
Yeah.
food waste
It'll
and
be good
everything.
to watch. Okay.
Yeah, there was another one they added to the reuse, recycle, and refuse. You know, people need to start refusing products that are in these packaging that are not recyclable, they're not compostable. So, and they talked, you know, about like the program that Maine has passed and how that's going to fit in.
Yeah. Yeah. The 5 R's, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, on that Buy Nothing group, that's basically a swap shop
Yep,
without
exactly.
having, you know, transfer station. And so when I ran one that had, you know, a swap shop at Transfer Station 5 Town, it was very well utilized, and a lot of stuff didn't get in the landfill and didn't get, you know, disposed of. You know, and what they do is they leave it there for a certain amount of time. You know, it was only a day or two. If it didn't go in a day or two, it wasn't going to go, and generally. But it was an amazing amount of stuff that we kept out of the landfill. And I do know that towns have various, and this is an administrative thing, so, you know, somebody has to run it, and normally it's a nonprofit, but, you know, something like a, it's not Facebook, what was that? A few years ago they had a group, recycle group, but if you had some kind of electronic posting and then a place where it could be staged and people could come and have a swap shop that way. I know that Casco still runs one at their facility, and but that's what they're talking about when they say Buy Nothing. They're talking about
Right.
noticing people of stuff that's reusable instead of putting it in a landfill or otherwise disposing of it, passing it on to someone who can use it, which is a good thing.
Well, Gray has a fantastic shop.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so fantastic they had to close it for a while because people were fighting over
But it's a little
stuff.
hard to do with our system, that's
But
all.
that,
It is, very
yeah, but it was a lot of stuff in there, and it was run by people that volunteered, and everything was free.
And I know,
Free Cycle, that's what it's called. Free Cycle is what I'm thinking of.
yeah, is it the Salvation Army or we do it? No, Goodwill in Raymond. I don't know how many of you have been behind there, but they get a lot of junk.
Oh,
and
it's
they've
terrible.
complained
Oh, yeah.
about that.
Yeah, that's Salvation Army.
Yeah.
And they've just complained because people just leave it there thinking they're doing something good, but
Well, some
it's.
people I think no, they're not.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's too bad because stuff they'll never be able to use, and then they have to pay to
Yeah.
dispose of it.
Goodwill's had that issue too. A couple of months ago, there was a big kind of a push to, we can't take these things. It was costing them to have to, as you said, to get rid of some of the things that people were just dropping off.
Yeah, it was just
So
crap. And
they monitor it now.
It's over $1 million a year.
Yeah,
For the
yeah.
whole Google company, it's over $1 million a year to dispose of waste.
Okay, wow, yeah.
In the class, the other thing she said was that boxes can have tape and labels on them, but they can't take anything with duct tape. No duct tape.
Well, that
They know this
eliminates
is
a lot of
Maine.
things.
They know this is Maine.
And did you say about the pizza boxes, and not the
Right.
the section that has grease on it, they don't take, they don't want? I mean,
They say tear off the cover, recycle the cover,
Yeah.
but not
Yeah.
the grease.
No,
And if
Yeah.
it's just a little grease, it was okay, but it, you know, when in
Yeah.
doubt, right?
God,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, need to think about that. So the
So-
only, go ahead.
No, I said we're at the end, aren't we?
We are, I did just want to mention that what I wrote did get into the Wyndham Eagle.
yes,
I
it
saw
did.
that.
However, it was not completely accurate because it said that our committee declared that this was Maine Recycles Week, which, you know, I shared with you all what I was sending into them, and
Yeah.
I wanted to be sure that you knew that
I
I
should
did not
tell you, I
say
don't
that
know.
we've made this
What
Maine
happened?
Recycles Week.
Was that in the
powerful.
Roadrunner, or was that in an article?
No, it's just, they put it in as an article,
Okay,
so.
because we really, on the actual, and I guess it's coming out,
It's
maybe
next
it's still
week,
coming
yeah.
out, yeah. But we really struggled with the Kayla's departure, and Melissa did the best she could, and so, but okay, so it's an article.
No, this was
Yeah,
not
okay.
Melissa's doing. This was just, I sent it in, I never heard back. I emailed a second time. I said, should I write this as a letter to the editor or what? Because I wanted to get it in before Maine Recycles Week, so people would know it's Maine Recycles Week. And then they did use it as an article. But again, we did not declare that it was Maine Recycles Week. It was just trying to let people know that it was.
They take a lot of liberty, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's the biggest, I've seen much bigger.
Absolutely. I just felt a little like, oh, I wasn't
That one.
trying to come across like that. So, but it was good. It was in there. If you
Yeah,
could
I
see
know it. It was
great.
very-
Little
it was
bit.
good.
But we
You
should
can't
start-
believe what you read in the local paper.
Well, we should start putting some things
Fake
in
news.
the Roadrunner section as well. So maybe I will just kind of touch base with her, and she could at least just alert people to the fact that, because just watching these meetings and people have the, want to do that is really informative too. So that will start to get people aware. Okay, so we'll look at January 20th and hear back from you whenever you let us know if that isn't going to work, and I'll let Representative Fay know as well. I think she said she had one date in January that was a conflict for her, but I don't think that was it. I'm pretty sure that will work, and depending on what happens in Augusta, obviously, too, but.
The other
Yes.
thought I had about, besides towns that are, doing well, but in towns that have good educational programs also. There must be some town who has a regular program they're doing. We can ask Casella that one too. Towns that are recycling in a good way, and towns that they think educate their public and so forth. Because they're going to see the towns that have different systems to
Right.
educate.
Okay. So
This
these-
person in particular, I think that's her whole job, isn't it?
Yep.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, comments? No public comment?
Merry Christmas.
All set? Not quite yet, but
Thanksgiving.
soon.
We gotta get
Happy
through Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving.
first.
Oh, skip in December, right?
Yes,
Well, yeah.
yes. All right,
Okay, so a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Thank
Second.
you, Sue
Second.
and Kathy. Appreciate it. Karen, you're all set?
Yes, thank you.
All in
Well, that's-
favor of adjournment?
That's cured sheetrock.
Thank you.
Oh,
We are
good.
adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This guy.